All right, folks. So I don't know how many people are going to show up. This was completely unplanned. I couldn't sleep, and I don't know about you guys, but a lot of questions to be asked that haven't been answered when it comes to Charlie Kirk overall, um, and everything going on with that. I did come across a few things that I wanted to share with some people. Some of this I may not even be able to share on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, this stream might get cut, but it is what it is. They still, as I can't seem to confirm, they still haven't caught the gunman. There is somebody in custody. I got some photos and pictures of that I'll share with you. But there is some pretty interesting things that I have gleaned through some of the video that is being shown and it kind of slowed down. I want to share with you guys. I'm going to pull up Premiere Pro here in just a minute so we can zoom in on some things and play some footage for you guys that I will share. I do know that there is a person in custody that apparently was found with a rifle. It looks really weird to me. I'm not sure if this person is going to end up being the said shooter, but I'll share the footage that I have with you so far. So, and we'll kind of take it from there. If you guys have found out any other information, feel free. I don't know what's going on with this stupid thing. All right. Feel free to throw that down there. I've been going through Twitter. And of course, now Premiere Pro is not working for me. All right. Been going through Twitter and finding a bunch of different footage as well as a bunch of different news articles and things like that. Or at least, I don't know about news articles, reports. We'll call it reports. I think that's probably the best way to say that. All right, I'm waiting for some footage to drop, and we'll come back to this in just a second. One thing I did find interesting is that, yeah, so there was a guy. So there is a guy that was in custody at the initial whatever. I do have footage that I'm going to show you. I'm not even sure if it's related. They show another guy, completely different guy, being arrested. And then he does have a rifle. The police have a rifle. There's no context to the footage. Could be bullshit. I don't know. I'm going to show it to you guys. You guys take it for what it's worth. But what I will tell you is that after looking at some of the footage of Charlie being shot, he clearly was wearing a vest, and there's some interesting things going on with that. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this either, Con. I was just laying in bed, kind of mulling over this, processing some of this, and I figured, let's jump on a live stream and kind of process some of this stuff together. Again, I'm waiting for this footage to drop. Let me see if it actually came through. Yeah. I'll share. I got 3 different pieces of footage I want to share with you guys. I'm going to throw this in Premiere Pro so I can blow it up. I'm going to attempt to sidestep YouTube doing the weird things that YouTube does. Where is this? All right, here we go. All right, so the first thing I want to show you guys, I'm going to share the screen with you in just a second. And I'm going to try to zoom way in so we can see what's going on with this. Let me change this sequence. And you guys bear with me. I'm kind of doing this on the fly. I know this ain't super. Let's just do 19. You guys are going through the process with me. So Bear with me. Suck it up a little bit. All right. I thought this was extremely interesting, and I wanted to share this with you. So let's share the screen. Okay, why isn't it sharing? All right, we're just gonna cancel. Oh, all right, here we go. All right, so let me show you some things going on with this. Number one, just from this footage right here, I'm gonna switch over to, I'm actually look at Premiere Pro. So if I missed some of your questions, I apologize. But I do want you guys to see there's clearly an outline of a vest on here. It's a low profile vest. It is what it is. But there's something a little bit crazy with this because we can actually see, I'm gonna zoom in, slide this over, and I'm just gonna start moving this frame by frame. All right. So first of all, there's something over his shirt on the left-hand side that we can see. I don't know what that is. I kind of suspect that that is a microphone with the magnet. I'll show you. I'll pull one of these smaller mics that I have. I think it might be a magnet. It is on his shirt in earlier videos. It kind of goes flying all over the place, but I suspect it's a magnet with a microphone on the inside where he's recording his own audio for his own production reasons. I don't know for sure. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. But in a second here, right here is where he gets shot. And the interesting thing is I want you to see how disturbed the entire shirt becomes. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me as far as if it was just he got shot in the neck and it was a through and through clean shot. But I want you to notice what shows up right here. So you guys can see the actual wound, but I want you to see what's going on right below that. I'm going to zoom this in. And the only reason I'm doing this, guys, is because I don't want to show too much for basically YouTube to pull this, because they probably will anyhow. But notice there is some sort of hole right here. And we can see as we kind of scroll back a little bit right here, this is an outline. We can see an outline of his body armor. All right, there is a plate there. So he does have body armor. And then we see, before the wound even starts bleeding, we see something going on right below the collar line. Right now, what this looks to me, and the other thing that I noticed, I saw some shots that were viewing him, basically his profile from his left-hand side. And when I saw that video, what I immediately looked for was an exit wound, and I never saw one. And so far through all the footage that I've looked for, I cannot see an exit wound, which if he was shot head on, and I don't doubt that he was shot head on, but my point is, if it was a clean shot to the neck, I think we would have seen an exit wound. I mean, you have a fairly soft tissue. Yes, if it was going at an angle, it would have hit his vertebrae. So it could potentially deflect and diffuse around. But right now, with what I'm seeing right here, and I'll just play it. This footage is slowed down. But what I'm seeing right there, this is what I think. And you can actually see, if I zoomed out, you can see kind of distortion in his neck and his face. I think that we actually had an impact on the body armor, the top edge of that body armor. And I would bet, somebody said, hey, somebody else brought this up as far as, hey, this could have been a deflection with body armor. And then somebody commented and said, hey, no, composite body armor, absorbs an impact. Well, yeah, it can, but even on composite body armor, if it hits an edge, it may not. There may not be enough surface area for that bullet, and it could very well deflect depending on the angle at which it impacts. But Also, when people typically composite body armor, especially if you get 3A, 3 plus, it's going to be thicker than what I'm looking at here. So this very well may be metallic body armor. And we could see where this impact right above, right just below the neckline, could have actually hit the body armor and deflected upward. And really, that's where all the energy goes. You can actually see his head move up and back. And again, the other thing that if we look at how much, look at that shirt, folks. Look how much that shirt moves. If he was just hitting the neck, like this, a clean through and through shot at the neck doesn't explain how much movement that we're getting out of this t-shirt. Now, at the end of the day, none of this proves anything. Doesn't catch the murderer. We don't know what was going on here. I do think that it's correct that we're probably looking at a sniper shot from, I don't even like that term. We're looking at a shot from about 200 yards, possibly from a rooftop. This is the video that I was talking about that showed this gentleman. And again, this is on X, this is on Twitter. So take it for what it is. We don't even know if this was actually footage from this event or it's, it does show Provo. But I'll play this if you guys haven't seen it. And right now I'm not looking at comments. I'm still looking at Premiere Pro. So I'll get to those comments in just a second. But I do want you guys to see they arrest this guy. And then over here, we're going to see a rifle in just a second. And another piece of footage, it shows it laying near or about, there it is. So that cop is basically standing there near the hood of the vehicle with that rifle. And I wanted to bring this down here because at one point, clearly there's a suppressor on it. This is what I wanted to bring this down here and check out. Because right there, we could possibly, that looks like it's probably a 22 or a 22 Magnum at most. Can a 22, that looks like magazine fed, a very small magazine. That could be 22 Magnum, something like that. I don't know if what we're seeing, if this makes sense. So again, we're lacking some context on this video, where it came from, when it was, all of those things. So some of you have probably seen this one. There is some footage here. And I will play the audio for you guys as well. Hopefully you guys can hear that. I can't even hear it because I don't have headphones on. Anyways, this guy's saying, hey, there's a guy up here on the roof. And then he points out where he saw him run from. It's hard to tell if that silhouette is a person or not, but this person was alerted to this object because he said he saw a man running on the roof. So, that's basically what I've been playing around with, and we're going to continue to look for more footage. Again, I'm still looking for some more of the footage that is, from the side. I think if we can get that footage, and I'll find it sometime tonight. And I'll look at that and try to analyze that, slow that down. They could be decoys. I do find it really strange. I find it really weird that we had this guy, apparently the guy that was initially arrested was screaming something to the effect, I'd do it again, or I don't know. There's some weird things going on with this. I was thinking the same thing too, Robert, is it could possibly be 17 HMR. All those are possible, right? You can make a 200-yard shot with 17 HMR, even 5.7, and really possibly 22, especially 22 Magnum for sure. What I will say, going back to this footage, when I saw this footage at first, when I saw the initial footage of Charlie Kirk getting shot. Now, of course, I got a screen prompt right in front of where I'm trying to manipulate this thing. The way that he seized up, I knew that like he was dead right there. This wasn't. It didn't matter if if he didn't lose any blood. What I suspect happened is we had a hydrostatic shock wave that completely decimated his spinal cord, possibly even going up into his brain as well. I mean, like the way that he seized up, he was dead immediately. I don't even think he knew what hit him. He was dead. So, you know, when this was all playing out, people were like, "Oh, well, you know, there's reports saying that he has a pulse and, you know, this, that, or the other." And I was like, man, I knew what was going on. There was no, it didn't matter if a machine was making him breathe or his give, you know, if a machine was keeping him alive, doesn't mean he wasn't brain dead from the get go. So anyways, we'll see why neck though. Head has greater surface. Yeah, you know, I don't know. They could have been aiming for his chest and they happened to hit the top of that vest. I mean, the fact is that criminals get lucky sometime. And unfortunately, I mean, this is really disturbing. I think that you know, I've been a big fan of Charlie Kirk for a long time. I've watched a lot of his content. I think there's definitely people that you watch that you feel like you get to know and you feel like you know them. And then you admire them for their courage and their ability to articulate and convince and just be able to communicate. I mean, the guy was just a master communicator. He was one of the most compelling voices in whatever you want to call it. I don't even like the term the right, but definitely one of the most compelling voices for freedom, liberty, and everything that America's supposed to stand for. And you know, it's America has lost something very precious. There's not very many people out there like him. And I was thinking about this earlier. You know, what if President Trump had been killed? And it would have been sad. And obviously there would be greater fallout to some extent, but I don't know which would be worse. Losing Charlie Kirk and the emotional effect that I think is going to have on so many Americans is, I think, greater than what we would feel for Trump. Obviously, Charlie Kirk was young; he's 31 years old, has a family, 2 kids, a 1-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old daughter, and I think a 1-year-old son, or maybe that's vice versa. Fact is that it's really unfortunate that his kids probably will never even remember him. Luckily, there's enough footage out there for them to be able to come back and see the father, who he was, what it was about, and hopefully pass that torch to them. But it's yeah, you know, that's basically what I was saying, and I agree with that. I think that impact was actually right at the essentially just above or just below the collarbone. Guys are talking about why they shoot him in the neck, all these things. Yeah, look, got to be an inside job in the way they wanted the world to see them as rapists. We already know that, right? But this is one of the things that really wore me out with Butler, which, by the way, I mean, one thing I will say, like how similar this is already starting to feel like Butler all over us, deja vu, is really, really weird. One of the things that really wore me out personally with Butler was just the crazy, I don't even like to say conspiracy theories, but the nonstop theoretical what ifs. When you really when I looked at the evidence and I looked at it for thousands of hours, like all the time, it was pretty consuming. I went out to Butler twice. you know, I didn't see any evidence. As a matter of fact, I saw evidence against anyone else being involved. Now, as far as an actual shooter, I'm not saying, because I don't know. As a matter of fact, I find it unlikely that there wasn't other people involved in the prep for that. But there was a lot of wild theories that just drove me nuts that there was no evidence for, of multiple shooters, multiple gunshots. There was some decent evidence coming out at the beginning with some of the audio that I think was later fairly well debunked. But I don't want to relitigate that. But the point here is like, I don't know if I'm going to be very careful about speculating about who's involved, who's not involved, all those things. I do find it extremely odd that with a campus like that, with as many cameras around, with as many people with cell phones, that somebody was able to get out of there without being apprehended. I find that extremely odd. And maybe somebody is in custody. I don't know, but it's a little strange. Yeah, there's a ton of ballistic reasons why, if they were aiming at the chest, they hit them in the neck. Um, and again, could have been, again, sometimes bad things happen and criminals get lucky. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell from the audio that I've been able to pick up online, and I'm sure some higher definition audio and video. I mean, there was hundreds of people at thousands of people at that, and probably most of them had their cell phones on, or a large percentage of them had cell phones on. So, I mean, there's literally thousands of cell phone footage out there of this event, looking at 1,000 different directions that hasn't come out yet. So, I don't know. We'll see what's going on. Yeah, it's just hard to tell. It's number one. We had a noisy crowd. It's hard to tell from these phones. Look, I mean, as someone that does a lot of video with guns, like, these don't convey how loud the gunshot is. They have limiters on them. So a lot of times, even as I'm videoing different gun reviews and I'm shooting a bunch and stuff like that, like how it actually sounds in person, whether it's suppressed or unsuppressed, what you get out of one of these devices doesn't convey. Sometimes an unsuppressed will sound suppressed, and then vice versa. So it's kind of hard to get good audio or to draw any conclusions based on audio out of some of these cell phones. That's just the reality. Yeah, Kimo, I just played that. For those of you just kind of coming in, this is some of the video that I just played and was showing everybody. I'll try to make this larger. But this is what I was saying right here. Look, we have, and again, I have this zoomed in, folks. I'm trying to keep YouTube from censoring us too much. But what I want you to notice is two things. Number one, you can definitely see the outline of a vest. Let me get right there. Look, you can see an outline of the vest. Hopefully you guys can see that fairly clearly. I know we're only broadcasting like 1080, so it's not, but there is clearly, as I can see it, there is an outline of a vest there, a plate. I won't say a vest, but it's a plate carrier, a low profile plate carrier. And as you play through this, number one, look right there. So you can't, it's a little hard to tell, but the entire one portion of his shirt is pulled way up. So his shirt is violently disturbed. And I'm going to go frame by frame here. This is not a high frame rate video. So there's a lot of stuff missing here. But his shirt is violently disturbed. And then as we continue to go, and I'm just kind of playing this frame by frame. Matter of fact, I'll just hit play. Guys, I want you to notice this mark on a shirt just below the collar. This is why I'm thinking that we had a round impact right here at the shirt, right here at the just below the collar, and it's it's perfectly aligned. Even in this kind of this one frame, I can tell that that shot is perfectly aligned with the top of the plate that he was carrying, that he was using. And again, especially when guys are you're trying to carry a low profile plate, a lot of times, a lot of metallic plates are still in use. And that makes perfect sense. And then also, as you continue to watch this footage, especially if I showed his upper face and things like that, his neck goes back, as you would expect, even if he was shot through and through the neck to some extent. But you can actually see almost a shock wave go up through his head, like toward the 12 o'clock. So I suspect that a round hit right there, right at the collar line, and hit the edge of his plate and deflected or ricocheted directly upward. And this is why, again, I talked about it earlier as well. Like from the side, I kept looking at the video that there's a video that's almost directly to his left side, and I never see an exit wound. So if this was a round that went through and through the neck, you would almost guarantee to see an exit wound. There isn't one. And after watching this footage, I conclude that that round actually went up into at least his head cavity, if not into his cranial cavity. But even this shot right here, look, I think at this point, it's completely, even if it didn't hit his spinal column, I think his spinal cord is completely blown out here. I think he's dead right here at this moment. So, just again, super, just a tragedy. And you guys can see it all take place. All right. So that's that. Yeah, it's a super horrific. Yeah, I agree with this, Scotty. And who knows, the cameras that picked this up, between the noise of the crowd, between everything else, we obviously had a camera that was fairly close to him. Just probably, I don't know, that may be 10, 15 yards, maybe a little bit more, but fairly close to him. Any sound that we heard could have absolutely just come from the impact. You could have had a completely unsuppressed firearm shoot from 200 yards to the rear, and it may not be picked up by the microphone. And even if it was picked up by the microphone on this, it wouldn't be with enough fidelity to be able to tell, hey, is that suppressed or unsuppressed? I mean, it's just not. So again, I just kind of caution everybody to avoid over speculating. It just muddies the water, makes it a little crazier than it needs to. It could absolutely be a conspiracy that involves any of these things, or it could be as simple as just another left-wing whack job that decided they wanted to kill Charlie Kirk. And I was just going through, Twitter, and just looking at some of the horrendous things people are saying. And it's just crazy to me. It is absolutely nuts, some of the things that people are saying. And the other thing too is, they justify some of the things that they say by saying things like, he was a terrible person, he was misogynist. Even the people that are trying to be like, oh, you know what, I don't like Charlie Kirk, he's a misogynist, he's this, he's that. Like, I have tried to listen to some of the things that Charlie Kirk and try to interpret as being, some sort of crazy, misogynistic, hate-filled speech. And I don't even know where they get that from. Like, he was one of the most polite people on the planet. He was very gracious to most of the people that, he was debating at any one time. Offered them a lot more respect than he was shown. And even the people that don't like him, like, I'm trying to figure out Like, is there an actual valid reason? I can't find it. Maybe there is. Maybe he said some stuff that I'm just not aware of, or can be interpreted. He would share facts. He would share facts about, hey, look, you know what? We have a large majority of violent crimes coming from, a black demographic, which is only 13%. If you count all males, it's about 7%. So we have a large portion of crime coming from 7% of the population. And I know things like that piss people off. And you can try to skew that as racist or whatever else, but those are facts. I don't know. When facts hurt your feelings, I don't know what to say. Yeah, there's literally 1,000 different possibilities and millions of possibilities and explanations. Tadash says the person that focused on the filming the shooter on the roof needs to be questioned. They spent a really long time focused on the shooter. Yeah, I also saw the footage of the guy next to his bodyguard, which, by the way, if you watch enough of Charlie Kirk's videos, you'll see that same bodyguard that's off to his right side. He right before he gets shot, he kind of folds his arms like that. But there's a guy next to him. Does look weird, right? So he fixes his hat. He's holding the phone really awkwardly, and he fixes his hat. And of course, there's speculation saying that was a signal. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Some of that remains to be seen. I did see a post. I don't remember who said it. I do kind of agree with this one. If we see someone on the left assassinated in the next few days, I think that's pretty clear that this is an outside element, and they were basically referencing, a foreign entity or something like that, trying to cause division and strife here in the U.S. Not to be cliche, because it's already been said 100 times, no matter what happens, this is a turning point. And I don't know. I'm worried about I've been worried about the future of this country for a really long time. I do think that this could be a catalyst to something that could potentially be pretty crazy out there. So if you're not armed, you need to get armed. I don't care if you're left, right, or whatever else. And you should always be armed, right? I mean, that's what we preach. You need to get training. You need to know what you're doing. You need to be competent. I don't know. Yeah. There is a school shooting. I was watching that and looking for updates on that too. This is always the most frustrating time period in events like this, when there's so much bad information kind of coming out, and information's coming out in spurts. And whether it's the school shooting in Colorado, which is in the same county as Columbine, by the way, or this event with Charlie Kirk, these are always the moments after Butler, a good, hour, 2 hour, 3 hours going in after Butler. There was all kinds of multiple shooters reported. It is the chaos right after these events that I think end up leading people astray. And I think that's what I'm very cautious about. And if there are multiple people involved, this chaos is what they thrive on. And when they start putting all this stuff out on the internet and start drumming up these rumors that, start leading people down pathways that are meant to be a distraction, you need to guard yourself against some of that. I agree, Todd. Carry everywhere. Oh, there's a bunch of them. What left icon at this point would spark such a thing? Could be anything from, um, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. There's a bunch of leftist senators, whether it's Pelosi. There's leftist activists. There's leftist actors. So trust me, I know how. Don't project your feelings onto some of these people and the impacts that they could have. You got to understand that there's a lot of people on the left that the left holds sacred, right? Uh, yeah, and I did this, like, anytime these events are taking place, I'm flipping through different news channels, trying to see their different takes on things. And some of the stuff on MSNBC, ABC, just bizarre, just bizarre. Yeah, yeah, that guy on ABC. I had that whole thing pulled up just a little bit ago. But I'll tell you, the other thing is the compilation of just people like left, everything from TikTok to on X, and every other social media platform. I mean, there are just hundreds and hundreds of people just, again, basically celebrating his death and saying he deserved it. He got what he deserved. All of these things. It's really sad because, again, I get it if you like. There are so many people on the left that I hate that I think are intentionally trying to destroy America. But I don't feel like that they should be killed. And I genuinely think that they're like Eric Swalwell, great example. I think that guy is Adam Schiff, another great example. Both those guys, I think they're enemies to our country. I think they're intentional. Number one, I think Swalwell is definitely a puppet of China, but both of those guys absolutely are enemies to everything that we stand for here in the United States. That being said, I don't wish death upon them. If they died, you wouldn't hear me, not even secretly, like inside me, like, oh God, I'm so happy that person was killed. And for the left to be so hateful, to be so hate filled, that even some of the moderates among them, they're going around asking people. I saw a video where they're going around just college campus and like, students that you would think they look moderate, they're not the blue haired people with, nose rings and everything else. They're just normal people. What do you think? One girl's like, somebody had to do it. Like, holy crap. There is something seriously poisoned with America when we have got to that point where you could look at somebody like Charlie Kirk, and even with all his grace and everything, and again, they hated him because he was so persuasive. They hated him because he was so effective. That's what they hated about him. They didn't really care about his beliefs. It was the fact that he could persuade people. And again, I said this earlier when I was doing the show earlier. You could literally see time and time again as he's talking to someone that clearly hates him, hates everything he stands for. As that discussion went on, you could see them coming over to his side. And you can tell that that person walked away completely changed and was questioning everything they believed before they got to that microphone. And that's what we need. We need more people like that. Yeah, America is completely captured by the left. They have academia, they have the news, they have social media, they have Hollywood. Um, I mean, they have preschool, all of it. They have all of it. Like the amount of brainwashing and leftist nonsense that our kids are exposed to from the time they are born until they're in their teens and much less into their adult years. It's actually amazing that we aren't completely overrun by now. And it's because of good parents. Like that's where it starts. We have a lot of good parents out there that do care about what their kids believe, that do question them, that don't leave and completely abandon their responsibilities to the state so that their kids can be raised by the state. because that's what's happening and that's why they push, preschool, free daycare, all this. Like, it's just opportunities for the state and for the left to completely brainwash your kids. I agree. That's the intent. They shot him because he was reinvigorating the young, and leading them to the truth. That's the last of their base turning to conservatism. You're right. Sesame Street is absolutely part of the propaganda. Darker times ahead, I'm afraid. We will say things like, really went to hell after Charlie got shot. Thanks, Dylan. I appreciate that. Many are cash cows in politics. They're supposed to benefit the American people, but they only benefit themselves with millions of dollars. Yeah, I agree. But I also think that there are people in it that are really sold on an ideology. I mean, it is a religion through and through, and there's some people that are extremely dedicated to it. There's definitely politicians out there that they may or may not truly believe. Again, the Eric Swalwells of the world. I don't know what he believes, but I know what he'll say for money. And I do think there's a lot of those people are captured by the fame, the fortune, the money they get from that. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, folks, I think there's going to be a lot of baiting of conservatives over the next few weeks, and I would caution you against it. Just keep a level head. Understand that there's bigger forces at play, that the last thing that you want to do is get baited into punching a stupid liberal and going to jail over it. And then now they have a news story that makes you look bad, makes the conservative party, Republicans, whatever you want to call it, traditional Americans look bad. Like, it's not worth it. We're not going to win doing that. What I would say is that I would encourage everybody to follow Charlie Kirk's example. Get better at being able to articulate and defend the things that you believe. Learn to be more gracious toward people. I think that is the persuasive power, and that's where his strength lied. And I think that we can learn a lot from that. Those who are virtue signaling, saying conservatives shouldn't react, just remember how BLM reacted to the killing in George Floyd, looting, burning down neighborhoods. Nobody even knew who he was. Yeah, I don't know what your argument there is, Jay. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's virtue signaling. Should we go riot? Should we go burn down our neighbors' stores and businesses? Surely that's not what you're suggesting. Mr. Kirk had millions of followers on social media. The man was a husband and the father of two beautiful girls. Yeah. Look, I think what we need to do for sure is to get more organized, get more vocal. I think what we as conservatives and the right, and again, I talked about this earlier, we've done is we've been silent. And then we had kind of been shamed into silence, because anything that we like, all of us are afraid of being called a racist, a misogynist, transphobe, homophobe. Like, we got to quit. Like, if you don't believe that homosexuality is okay, it's okay for you to believe that. If that is your belief, you should have the right to believe that. If you don't believe that men should be able to walk into women's bathrooms dressed as women, then you should be able to say that without, like, it's actually the most logical, most sensible argument. And for whatever reason, we have just sat back. We've been shamed into silence, and that's not working anymore. And that's one of the reasons that Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. is because they ran out of options. Like, we can't call him a homophobe. We can't call him a racist. That's not working anymore. Like, they ran out of ammunition. So they had to resort to violence. Like, they're losing every argument on every front. The left is eroding precipitously, both from a Democrat voting base. The only thing they had going for them was mass illegal immigration, and they've lost that. Trump needs to get a little more serious on deportations, by the way. But other than that, I mean, that's why they've resorted to violence. That's why we're going to continue to see violence, because they're basically like children throwing a fit. Same thing with during BLM, all those riots. It's just, you know, petulant children out doing petulant children shit. And like, that's what we're dealing with. Yeah, one of the last things he posted on X was lamenting the death of an innocent white girl who was stabbed by a deranged black man on the bus. But if someone says white lives matter too, he's racist. Yeah, and you know that's part of that's so true, Pat. And we all are doing that. Like, we're running businesses, we're working our asses off to make a living for our kids. And then at the same time we're being demonized. Like, I'm so sick of the white racism that is being, projected at white people that are doing nothing but good things for the community, society. All this racism that's projected toward little white kids. I also love, this was brought up, I had never noticed this before. I don't know how I missed this. Is I think Elon had posted something earlier, how they highlight or they capitalize black anytime they say a black man, black woman. And then it was just funny. Like, I saw another article, like a few stories down, completely unrelated. Same thing. It was like the B is highlighted everywhere. The W in white is not highlighted. Like, there's little things like that that we're just sick of. We're just sick of as Americans. Like, we all know that we're not racist, that we're just out here hardworking, that we love everybody, that we don't judge people by their skin color. I sure as hell don't. But you know what? I should be able to judge you by your actions. And your race doesn't provide you protection from being able to judge you by your character and by your actions. If you're a shitbag, I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic, gay, lesbian, whatever. Like, your demographic does not protect you from that. Just like, again, if you're white, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're a shitbag, you're a shitbag. If you need to be taken off the streets, you need to be taken off the streets. And what we've done as a society is we've determined that the sins of our great, 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 great grandfathers somehow completely negate the consequences of current criminals. And just because they're black and just because, or whatever minority, like, we're going to let them out, even though they've been convicted time and time again and or charged time and time again of violent crimes, because the color of your skin, that is your bail. And that's got to stop. In America, we are a meritocracy. That was what made this country great. That's what was great about it. Like, all these minorities overseas, going back since the Pilgrims, they're like, hey, you know what? We can go to that country and all we got to do is work hard. People, even if people do judge us by the color of our skin or our race, ethnicity, religion, like, we can get there and we can work our asses off and we can make a living. And that's still happening today. Like, there's so many immigrants that are coming in day after day that are immediately starting businesses, immediately capitalizing on the capitalism in this in our society that is the freest society that's available. There's some issues there, but we need to work on some freedom and personal and liberty things for sure. But the fact is that we still all have opportunities to get out there and make a wonderful life for ourselves or family. And every single minority that is out there blaming the white guy or systemic racism or whatever else, there's been somebody in the same color in worse circumstances that has made it in this country. And all you're doing is you're letting propagated bullshit hold you back. And it's your own belief system that's keeping you from being successful. It's not America, it's not the system or anything else, because people less fortunate than you have made it. And by the way, if you are a minority, you got so many different advantages. Whether it's scholarships, whether it's funding, whether it's whatever it is, that's just a fact. If there's definitely a lot of advantages that are afforded minorities that aren't afforded poor white kids. Like, go look at here. I'm here in West Virginia. Go look at Appalachia, West Virginia. These kids don't have toothbrushes. Like, you want to talk about poverty? It doesn't get much worse than that. And there is no scholarships for poor white kids. But I digress. Liberals hate free speech because it is the solution to their nonsense. And that's the thing, is like, when you believe in something like socialism and some of the things that they believe in, it doesn't take long. It takes a few minutes of public discourse to dismantle how nonsensical some of this stuff is. It takes, like, they have to control the narrative, and they have for so long, and that's falling by the wayside with the destruction of the mainstream media. Mainstream media blew their last load during COVID. They lost every bit of credibility they had left. It was so obvious to everybody that they are simply the voice of the state and nothing more. They are not looking out for their viewers. They are not looking for the truth. They completely, they omit so much information. That's one of the biggest problems that they do, is they omit so much information to the average person that there's no way for, again, they've lost all credibility. So again, free speech is where it's at. And that's what's so great about, X. I really do think that we would be in a much worse place, and we would not be where we are today, where people are kind of lifting the blinders off their eyes, if X hadn't been bought by Elon. I don't care if you like Elon or not. I mean, that was a pretty good move for liberty. He has his problems. Sounds good, buddy. Good night. So at what point does turn the other cheek become a bad tactical decision? It's very hard to be gracious when the other side will kill you because of an opinion. I'm not saying that we should turn the other cheek. No, what I'm saying is that we need to organize. We need to get serious. We need to not back down. I'm not saying turn the other cheek at all. I think we need to have a call to action, but that action isn't violence. I don't think that's going to persuade anybody. That's going to end up being our downfall, which is proven by the left. They've tried all these horrible tactics, trying to demonize everybody that disagreed with them. If you disagreed with them on Obamacare, you're a racist. If you disagreed with this or that, or whatever it is. All right. So they demonize you. They have attacked you. They captured almost all media. They got people canceled left and right on YouTube and other social media platforms. Well, that was removed from them. So now they're resorting to violence, and they're losing more and more people. Look, the advent and the death of Charlie Kirk is not going to be the rise of the left. It is going to be their downfall, because people are going to see that. If we are starting to resort to violence or anything like that, or getting out, even protesting, I think we should protest. But I think we as Americans and conservatives, or again, whatever box you want to check in there, libertarians, like, protesting just looks dumb. It's a waste of freaking time. Like, get out there, put your money into something, get behind some causes, get behind, great organizations like Turning Point. There's other great ones out there, whether it's 2A, advocacy groups. Like, there's a way that we can organize and make things happen and actually get shit done, other than just standing out looking like a freaking idiot with a sign in your hand, with some sort of freaking cliche slogan on it. Like, get out there and do some things. I don't think we should turn the other cheek at all. I think this needs to be a wake up call. But I'm just saying, like, we shouldn't be, we shouldn't resort to violence, right? We shouldn't, if you want to follow the left's tactics and meet them force with force, all that's going to be is your downfall. It's their downfall. It's a proven pathway to destruction. If you want to follow that path, great. If not, like, maybe we should do something like Charlie Kirk. Get out there, start a YouTube channel, right? Get out there and talk to people. Like, I'm freaking nobody, man. I'm just a guy trying to make it, trying to raise my kids. You know, I love this country more than anything. I would have given my life for this country multiple times over. You know, I love this country, and I could have laid in bed. I just want to get out here and kind of vent a little bit. And I know some of you guys are just kind of lost in thought in the same way that I am, and maybe typing it out a little bit and talking a little bit kind of, I don't know, off gases that a little bit. I don't know. YouTube suppresses the shit out of this channel. I could go through and show you the many unmonetized podcasts, unmonetized videos that we do. Look, the success that we have on this channel, we have 156,000, whatever it is, subscribers. People often tell me that they are constantly being unsubscribed, even though they didn't choose to do so. Even people that hit the bell icon aren't notified when we make new videos, or they're notified of like live streams that I schedule days out, like days after the podcast. So yeah, we're definitely suppressed. There's like, it's so obvious that it isn't funny. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you know, I always tell people to go over to Rumble. Rumble's great, but even though we're suppressed on YouTube, we've broken through, and it is a much more popular platform. We still get 10 times the views on YouTube than we do Rumble. There's just not as many people on Rumble. I wish there was. I wish that would change. It's crazy this assassin went after a guy who doesn't have the power to make policy decisions. Charlie just argues with college kids for a living, which makes him crazy as a target. I think he's the most effective person, more effective than any politician, just for all the reasons that you touched on, Thatcher. The thing about Charlie is he believes what he says, and he comes through. It's authentic. It's, again, the guy is one of the most convincing voices out there. He hits. I just reposted one of his best segments I've ever seen on my X. If you're not following me on X, go follow me on X. I don't even know what. Paramount Tactical / Gary Melton on X. Go follow me. Yeah. So, anyways, you know, the fact is that he is more effective than any politician, and it actually affects policy because he is building the minds and the people behind the votes that, you know, he's creating the seeds that create the crop, right? So he's out there just tilling the earth, out there where he's combating academia and the left on their own turf. That's what makes them so angry. It's like, no, the colleges, these campuses are ours. Like, you have no business being here. And by the way, like, what took us 50 years to build, you're dismantling and changing thousands of minds in a matter of moments. That's what, you know, what drove them so crazy, is that he was so effective. I don't think, for all of us, and even me, for all of us that like Charlie Kirk and thought he was great and thought he had said great things, not even I can appreciate just how effective he is, how many people he's reached, how many minds he's actually changed. I think it goes into the millions and millions of people. And not only that, he's leaving a legacy of content that is going to be now replayed over and over. It's going to affect millions and millions of people in the future. There's more people that have heard a speech from Charlie Kirk than they have Martin Luther King. That's a fact. Guarantee it. And there's 10 times more that are going to hear it in the future, especially now that he's dead. Like, there's going to be college courses, hopefully, on Charlie Kirk, and at least at Liberty and some of the other, you know, conservative and Christian colleges out there. So, I mean, I don't think we really understand the effect that he's had, but I do think the left does. I think they appreciated it and they knew it, and that's why he isn't alive. Yep. Oh, Nick Freitas. I like to meet Nick. So we were at First Group together at the same time. He lives like, I don't know, 30, 40 miles from me. I need to have him on sometime. Hopefully I'll get to meet him. We have some mutual friends, former SF guys. Lone Wolf Survival 801 says, I still think it was a CIA. Maybe it was. Maybe it was. I think it was a leftist op. I don't think it matters beyond that. Yeah, I'm not. Mick says eventually even the Christian soldiers concluded that prayers weren't enough during the Crusades. I don't think modern Christianity looks all that well on the Crusades, and I'm not sure that you can necessarily. Well, I don't think that you can justify the Crusades. Just put it like that. I don't think Jesus would conduct Crusades. Yeah, this is absolutely true. Jeff says, Pastor Jeff. Welcome, Pastor Jeff. Regardless of our problems, we still live in the best nation in the world. Take a trip to another country and you will find the truth real quick. That's true. And one of the things that makes me love America so much is I've had the opportunity, not only when I was in the military and of course, spent some time in Iraq and Afghanistan. But I've also had another job where I travel the world pretty extensively and on a pretty regular basis. And man, as cool as some places, I love traveling. Super cool. I got to travel to some really cool and fun places. Some not so cool and fun. But, no matter what, it's like, man, this doesn't even compare to the United States at the end of the day. Yeah, they really are. I mean, that's one of the things. Like, I knew I wasn't going to sleep. I was sitting there scrolling through X, reading through some of the comments, watching some of these crazy videos, getting all worked up. And then, just looking for answers. I still don't know what other information has come out. If I see anything that pops up, matter of fact, there's a live thing going on Fox News right now. I don't know what's going on. Oh, I know what's going on. Hold on. My audio is not correct. That's correct. It's my audio on StreamYard. Should be. Anyways, I'm playing with the audio. If my audio falls out, you guys let me know. No, so this should be stereo and this should be chat. And we should be getting audio from here, but I'm still not getting audio from my computer. I'm not sure why. Let me turn that up and see if that changes. Oh, there we go. Distance with that weapon from the high ground with the nice weather. And it's still coming. It could have been someone that wasn't. Output. There we go. All right, fix the audio.
Many into the Republican
There we go.
movement, but he didn't care about your politics, even if it meant he was getting somebody engaged that thought differently than him.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to bring.
Anyways, like many of you, I'm hoping that
Congressman, you look at this,
they'll find the shooter. Like how on earth can we not find the shooter? That is what's absolutely crazy to me. All the videos, all the surveillance footage around in and around the school. That's what gets my conspiracy theory brain going.
More than any other American on the right or the left. We look at Charlie Kirk, and he was the one who was seeking to bridge the divide.
Thanks, Con. I don't think I was hearing it. That's all that really matters. I don't care if you guys hear it. My point is I couldn't hear it through my audio.
At least have our issues addressed. And I think that again just speaks to the tragedy. His whole movement has really
Thatcher, I think you're saying, I don't know if you're saying there's no way he would have counter snipers or not have counter snipers. I don't think Charlie Kirk would have counter sniper operations there. That's usually not something that a guest speaker would typically have. Yeah, I think most of these events are pretty low security. Yeah, the problem is there's been lots of different, so, again, anytime there's these events, all kinds of stuff is coming in. There's a bunch of people out there that are reporting everything. So like the first 24 hours after one of these events, like you just got to kind of sit back and be patient and kind of hopefully I don't know, just kind of let it sort itself out. Complacency. I don't know if it's complacent. I mean, the fact is you just, like, Charlie Kirk is not going to be able to afford like a full security detail like you would see with the president or anything else. I'm sure there's some mild heightened security. I'm sure they have some more uniformed officers in and around the campus. There may be additional patrols in and around the campus. The fact is, any type of these events, and this is one of the things I don't think people realize, even when it comes to presidential events, like they want to give the Secret Service, for instance, like they are presenting an amount of security that they want you to see it as a deterrent. It doesn't mean it's all that effective. Going back to absolutely during when President Trump was campaigning before he was elected the second time, I think he could have been easily assassinated at any one of those events prior to. And probably to some extent, even today. Of course, he has a lot more security as the actual president. I just think there's a lot more opportunity than people realize, and you just can't be everywhere all at once. And our security is not as good as we like to hype it up. And I think that's one of the things that is the job of the Secret Service. Like, hey, our security is rock solid. Like, you can't get to the president. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true. And I know a lot of people in the Secret Service. The fact is that people make mistakes, people slip up, and something like this, Charlie Kirk is not a president. School campuses are not designed around security, college campuses especially. They probably Charlie Kirk has done hundreds of these types of events without incident. So yeah, you are going to get complacent because that's the norm. And I don't even know if complacency is a good word for it. Fact is nobody expected Charlie Kirk to get shot today, including, obviously Charlie Kirk. Yep. I mean, you can easily spot his security detail. I've watched a bunch of his videos and I'm like, yep, that's the guy's security. That's his security. That one guy that was beside him the moment that he got shot, you see him in every video. That he's kind of slightly salt and pepper hair, muscular build, probably weighs about, he looks like he's about 6'1", probably about 189, 195, somewhere in there. Muscular dude. Not super huge or anything like that. Looks athletic. He looks like if he was walking by in the mall, I'd be like, that guy does security. The echo of the corridor is what's messing with the audio. A close shooter could sound further away from the sound wave bounce off. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on. Like I went down this path. I talked to like 30 different audio technicians during Butler. Like there's so many things that can screw with audio. And depending on where the source comes from, whether it's a professional microphone or a whether it's a cell phone, whatever we got going on. There's like you can't gather much from audio. Yeah, so I don't know if I might pull up. It's not gonna be tonight. I was planning on coming down here and kind of pulling up some Google Earth and looking at Provo, Utah, and that campus. From some pretty good solid sources, they think it was somewhere around like 523 feet away. So we're definitely looking at well over 200 plus yards. Right around 183 yards, if that number is correct. So looking at almost 600 feet, almost 200 yards away. That's further than Butler. That's further than JFK and the supposed Patsy. So that's a pretty decent shot. I mean, it's nothing. I could take any one of you, anyone short of Michael J. Fox. I could put behind a gun and have you shoot a man-sized steel at 200 yards. Pretty easy. It's not that difficult. Christian Hamrick says if it were a target that the deep state wanted, they'd have all the signal intel to have the dude before he reached the ground floor. Maybe not. Maybe they intended to get away. Like, I hate playing this game where we know what the bad guys are going to do. And if those bad guys are and sophisticated elements within our own government or whatever else they are, like pretending that if those people exist, they've sat and they've played this out 1,000 different ways. They've come up with multiple different contingency scenarios. We don't know. We don't know. We don't even. Well, and here's the thing: like, whatever you think the reality is it like if you were on the ground and you were, if we did some red cell stuff, and what I mean is like we plan this operation out, like, hey, we're gonna go back and we're gonna replay this. How would we assassinate Charlie Kirk? Whatever we think now, if you got on the ground and you actually saw, the layout, the blueprints, and we plan this out, whatever you conclude right now, it'd be completely different on the ground. That's a fact. That's including myself and a whole bunch of other professionals in the field. They said they had 2,500 security cameras at the campus. Since they know the building the shooter was on, it won't be hard. Yeah, see, this is my thing. Like, you would think, again, it was a very short time window before and after. Seems like they would have at least have some sort of description out. And maybe they do. Maybe they're just not giving that information out. I say it's 50-50, Jeff. Jeff says, with your military background, do you see this as drained individual or planned political assassination? I'd say it's 50-50. It could be both. It could be something that was planned meticulously and very detailed, or it could be just an asshat that got lucky. Yeah, exactly. Security only has to be successful 100% of the time. Sure did, Dairy Queen. We did exactly that. What the hell? We'll replay it. For those of you just tuning in right now. All right, so let me go through this whole thing. God, I need a producer. Actually, there was a guy here during our last podcast earlier today. Let me pull. Let's see. Stop screen. I'll play this again. Share screen. Which screen we're sharing? We're sharing this window. Let me pull up Premiere Pro. Such a pain in the ass. Get this thing to work. All right. We're going to share this screen, and I will big screen this so you guys can see as much as possible. All right. So what I was talking about earlier is, number one, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to let this out. So first of all, I'll try to make this as big as possible. You can definitely see that Charlie Kirk is wearing a plate. You can see it there. There's other portions of this video, like right there, extremely clear that we have a plate underneath here. Where I want you to pay attention, just above the O, and about not even an inch or so below his collar line. If you guys pay attention to what's going on here. First of all, just notice that the shirt is violently disturbed. So if we see how high this shirt's going up, and we're gonna try to change some contrast here. You can see where his face is. Like, this is the front of his shirt going way up above, almost to his left ear. That doesn't make sense to me if it just hit him directly in the neck. And we'll just play this out and you guys can kind of see. Also, all right, we see the wound. All right, but we also see the spot right there and again, you can see the clear outline at top of that plate. I think the projectile hit right here, hit the very edge of the plate, deflected directly upward, which is why there's no exit wound. You can see from other views, he doesn't have an exit wound. I think that bullet almost went at least at like a 45-degree angle up, and most likely ended up into his cranial cavity. If not, but no matter what, even if this went through and through as close as this is to his spine, just the hydrostatic shock wave alone would have just blown out his spinal cord. Like, I think he was dead right there. And you can kind of see he seizes. Like, I don't think Charlie Kirk ever knew what hit him. They could have stopped this bleeding. They could have prevented all the blood loss. I think he was brain dead right at this moment. So that's what you missed. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, I think it was definitely a rifle caliber. I mean, beyond that, I don't think it really matters. And that's what's curious too. If you look at the entrance wound, that's another reason I think that we have a very acute angle taking place with the projectile, because that is a big entrance wound. If that was just so, like, we could actually have not only the bullet going up at a weird angle and actually making an elongated entrance, but that bullet is probably highly deformed at this point too. So this is why we have such a large entrance wound. Usually you wouldn't see an entrance wound look like that. I wouldn't expect to see that. So take that for what it's worth. I mean, some of that's conjecture, but I mean, that's pretty good evidence right there. Again, I think that's exactly what took place. And I think that's what we'll find out took place in days to come. That's a guess, but it's a good one. All right. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, there was a lot of blood. I think that likely due to fragmentation and deformation, that probably hit his carotid artery as well as his jugular vein. And that's another thing too. That's one thing that I noticed even from far away. That's really dark blood, which that's usually venous blood. So that was probably his jugular vein. probably what you see most of that. If what we were seeing right there was an artery, it's typically much brighter. But again, that's also like that video before I got it was manipulated. Colors get changed, all those things. So it's kind of hard to say with any, you know, certainty whatsoever, any of that. There was a lot of blood, I think. But I think, and you know, as morbid as all that is going into all that, I think what's important, or at least, I don't know, a little bit of solace I get from that. I think that I don't think he even knew what hit him. I think there's, you know, to me, I wouldn't want to suffer. I wouldn't want to know that I'm bleeding out. I wouldn't want to take a shot in the neck and just, you know, so I think it was quick. Robert, that has not been my experience. I can tell you right now, I've seen dudes shot with 5.56 where we had to like scrape and stretch skin before we could even find the entrance wound. I do think that that bullet was probably deformed, and I've seen with 5.56 like really hard to find entrance wounds at all, and even 308. Those are a little bit, they're pretty small because the skin stretches again, and as a bullet goes into the skin, it pushes that away, and then the skin, muscle, and tissue fold back on it. Man, sometimes bullet wounds can be hard to find, quite frankly, and especially 5.56. Is it a trap? I mean, look. Look, here's some facts. Is we have many, we have 300 something million Americans. I don't know what, somebody look up the number of the percentage of trans people. All right, it's pretty freaking low. It's I don't know, somebody look it up. It's like in the 1% or less. So when you have 1% or less of a certain demographic and they're responsible for, I don't know, 6 or 7 at least in the last couple years, there's something to be said there. There's a easy correlated thing going on there that's just statistical, the statistical improbability of such a small percentage of people being responsible for a high percentage of a rare occurrence to begin with. Like, there's an easy correlation there. I'm not saying that we should sit there and say, like, here's the thing, and this is kind of what I'm talking about, what I was talking about earlier, guys. Like, we got to get over the fact, like, I'm not dogging on you, Thatcher. I'm not busting you out or saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is, like, no, we need to be able to call out evil for what it is. I do not agree. I think that I believe that the whole thing is a mental issue. It is body dysmorphia. It is a whole lot of mental things going on that never existed. They just didn't exist. Definitely not the scale, not nowhere near the scale that we've seen in the last few years. And I think it's okay for us as Americans to say, hey, you know what? There's something weird going on here, and we need to be able to call it out. And I think we do need to call it out. And we are poisoning kids' minds, both with ideology as well as with all kinds of other drugs, SSRIs, toxins in our food, you name it. Definitely when we start taking a kid and transitioning them chemically at a young age, like, that is going to destroy not only their physical body, their emotional health, their mental health, all the different chemicals in their brains that, you know, is being geared to develop the mind. Yeah, it's doesn't take a scientist or a doctor to say, hey, you know what? Things are going to turn out really weird, and we're going to make some really sick people if we do that. And the fact that we have mainstream health behind this sickness is fucking crazy to me. Like, and then we have so many what should be logical adults also getting behind that movement, and mostly because they're either shamed into it or they're ideologically driven. It's like, again, we've all seen it where, like, we have these actresses that end up with, like, 3 kids that are all trans. Like, no, they're not. You know, some Jordan Peterson has talked about in depth. Uh Yeah, and let's not pretend that we're not a better society. Or let's not pretend that we are a better society because we've now entertained people's mental health sickness, right? Like, no, okay, yeah, we'll go along with that. No. Yeah, there's nothing. There's if you were just shot directly in the neck, there's no reason the shirt would go way up to the left ear and all this other stuff. It just wouldn't happen. Hey, look, I am not as strong as a Christian as I probably should be, but look, I'm in hook, line, and sinker when it comes down to it, and I do. I think there's some genuine spiritual warfare going on here. Um, and there's some things today that I've been thinking about and reflecting on as far as, getting my own spiritual house in order. And I'm definitely lacking in that area. But I do think, um, I think there's some genuine spiritual warfare going on. I don't care what you think whatever of me. I think there's some demonic things at play here. And I think if you don't believe that, well, first of all, if you just say, no, that's not possible, you don't know. You don't know what is possible. And for people that just discount God and spirituality and all those other things, like it is the height of hubris because you don't know, you know. I don't know, I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to turn this into a whole debate on that. Uh Charlie was under a shade tent. If the shooter was elevated, he may not have had a shot at his head. Maybe only neck was exposed. I mean, it just depends. We'd have to actually look at the angle and what we had direct line of sight. I think that it's possible that given that that wasn't a really tall building, it was pretty far away. I think that line of sight, even at his head, would probably have been there, but it doesn't really matter. Regardless, like we really don't even know for sure where he was shot from. Like everybody's kind of speculating. I think we got it. I think most people are right. We haven't confirmed that. We definitely don't know what the shooter saw. We don't know where the shooter was aiming. Um, like there's it's all speculation at this point. Well, the Bible covers that, Slark. He says, if demonic forces are able to so freely overcome God, why are we putting faith in him at this point? It's literally covered in Revelation. It's so. I mean, I would study the Bible or whatever religious document you want. I'm definitely not a theologian, but there are really good, smart people to answer that, and it is literally in the Bible. Make closets great again. I mean, it's a possibility. So I've actually done a video that I've never posted on both ceramic plates and metallic plates versus, like, we carry this armor called Defender armor. It's one of the first like in-depth videos, and like some of the footage got screwed up, and there was no continuity. I literally paid for these like $600 plates of my own. Um, they're a composite plate, and they do absorb the round. And I showed different deflection angles, and I have the footage somewhere. I'll tell you, the ceramic plates were just as bad at deflection at certain angles as metallic ones were. So it could have been either. Like, I do know guys that, again, we've seen metallic, like ceramic plates don't absorb the round. Composite plates do. So there's been lots of guys that have been killed, whether it's from a metallic plate. Metallic plates are much worse, by the way. But I will say there's guys, whether they're up in a turret or on some sort of elevated position where they've taken shots and that round has bounced off their chest into their head. There's definitely documented both the ceramic and metallic plates where, again, I take a shot from over here, it hits my plate, bounces off and hits a buddy in the side. Like, those things happen. I don't know that I would go as far as saying that his plates got him killed. I do think there's an argument for some of these other composite plates that may have performed better. The question is, but even those plates, like if it did, basically bad guy gets lucky, it does a glancing shot right at the top of the edge. It's not going to stop that round to begin with. So it is going to glance off of that. It's going to ricochet, deflect, whatever you want to call it. There's not enough mass in front of that bullet to deflect around if it hits the top edge at an angle. So I wouldn't say that his plates got him killed. I would say that I recommend non-metallic plates. Ceramic plates have a lot of downsides too. All the deflection issues I talked about, but then also they crack very easily. Some of these different composite Defender armor, like we don't even promote them or anything else, but we do sell quite a few of them. If you want to look at those, there's some other Hesco makes some really good composite plates. That's what I'm wearing. Now, with that being said, when you're trying those, even the thinnest of them, some of the newer ones are super thin, but even the thinnest of those are going to be about twice as thick as some of the metallic plates. So when you're trying to be extremely low profile and wear armor under a t-shirt, because I'll be honest with you, like just watching the video at normal speeds, I never noticed body armor. And of course, now we've zoomed in, everybody's zoomed in, we're looking at things. But with some of those composite plates, definitely ceramic plates, those are thick too. I have a bunch over there. You're going to see them. So I don't know. I think what killed him was a bullet from a bad guy, ultimately. Look, I think what we need to do is start taking some mental health and identifying, like, quit pretending that a man that thinks he's a woman is mentally stable, or vice versa. You're not. I mean, up until, I don't know, somebody can find it. I mean, up until fairly recently, like, we considered that a mental disorder. Again, this has been said 1,000 times. If someone has an eating disorder and they think they're fat, we don't just say, "Oh yeah, you're fat." Continue to kill yourself. Continue to do, like, we don't perpetuate their mental disorder. We're like, "Hey, no, you need help." Like, that is not a healthy lifestyle for you. And there's all kinds of good evidence that says that a lot of people that do transition later on have not only all kinds of mental health problems, but then also regret it to begin with. I mean, we can't have such an automatic, like, there's no logical explanation that says, "Hey, you know what? We suddenly are accepting of this." So, and now there's this boom. Like, there's thousands, like every school now has trans kids. And it's freaking insane to me. Like, that never happened when I was growing up, when you guys were growing up, when our parents were growing up. Like, where were the trans kids then? And then on top of that, one of the biggest things that they've kind of scared people into, or one of their tactics, was, hey, if we don't transition these kids, they're going to kill themselves. Well, no. First of all, trans kids, even if you do transition them, they have a higher rate of suicide than normal kids to begin with. So there's a mental health problem there to begin with. Now, what we need to do is figure out where that mental health problem is coming from. Is it from chemicals in our food? Is it from vaccines? Is it just because, like, we're perpetuating a lifestyle and trying to glamorize this thing? And, I think there's a good percentage of that. I think that's a real thing. Slark, I'm not going to do a Bible study tonight. I'm not that guy. Like, I'm not a preacher. Maybe we'll have somebody on sometime. Then we can get into some more religious studies. It's not, I'm highly unqualified to do that. Yeah, I played that video earlier. There's a silhouette on the roof. I think that if he hadn't been wearing a plate and it hit him on the left side here, it would have probably hit vitals anyhow. I don't think the outcome would possibly be different, but maybe so. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The edges of anything are real problems when it comes to stopping bullets. These are all questions that we all want to know. I'll just kind of go through and give you guys. I'm just going to post whatever you got going on there. Matthew Coling says, "How do they not have the guy if they know approximate distance?" Great question. The roof of the UVU Career Development Center. Depends on the play too. I thought the last 7 mass shootings have been trans people. Heck, you go back 200 years to make the percentage even smaller. Cook the book, Slark. Yeah, apparently there's reports there's like 2,500 cameras on the campus. I don't know if that's true. I don't know where they got that number. I don't know how you definitely aren't actively watching that many. Yeah, I don't think Devil Dog 7682 from the video from a spectator I saw, the shot came from ground level on an upward path. Round seemed from the video to have entered around the collarbone and exited his neck. That's not an exit wound. I think what you're seeing, again, I played it earlier, I'm not going to play it again. I think it's deflecting off his plate and then going up. The round does look like it's an upward trajectory. That doesn't mean that it came from lower than him. It means that it deflected off the top edge of his plate. You can rewind this. I think you can go back and watch where I showed all that. Yeah, I get he was trying to be close to the crowd, but the risk in today's climate is just too high. Well, hindsight's 2020. That's what Charlie Kirk was known for. I mean, and that's one of the reasons he was so effective. He wouldn't have been nearly as effective if he'd been standing up on some platform in every school behind armored glass. It's just I think that depends. I think ultimately you need to have most likely committed a crime, and then that crime needs to be adjudicated and determine whether or not, like, there should be a process. We do ban people from getting access to guns. I think that needs to be, I don't know, let's just follow the Constitution, the current laws, before we just go out and start seizing people's property. Yeah, I mean, we got to be careful, and there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. Yep, we talked about all this. Absolutely agreed. And the fact that we were doing all these social experiments, especially in the military, was just disgusting to me. Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, I feel compassionate toward people with all types of mental health. Veterans are out there that are messed up from PTSD and all kinds of other problems, right? Self-medicating on all kinds of drugs and booze and everything else. Like we have a more messed up society than ever. I think that, being trans is not a real thing. I do think it's a mental disorder. It doesn't make me hate anyone that is trans. We're allowed to believe that and not be, I have no hate toward anybody on that. Just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make logical sense to me. All right. So how do we stop things like this from happening with mental health awareness? Well, first of all, we don't know that this is a mental health issue. If this was like, that's another problem here, is we blame too much shit on mental health and just not like holding people accountable. Like there's a difference there. I'm all for veterans that have mental health issues and any American that has any issues, right? But if a veteran goes out and kills somebody or hurts people, like, I don't care what mental health excuse you have, you need to go to prison. All right. Regardless of the reason, you have committed a crime, you bought the ticket, you're going for the ride. Like that's the problem. And I talked about this earlier, whether it's race, whether it's mental health problems, like we got to start holding people accountable. And it's real simple. It's like we have all these laws. Let's just like pretend we're a society built on laws. Let's enforce those laws. And then guess what? You go to prison, you're like, you know what? I really let this mental health thing get out of control. I let my emotions or whatever. And that's another thing too, folks. Some of this isn't even mental health. It's just weak people that act on every emotion that they have and can't control themselves anymore because they weren't taught by their parents to have some fucking self-discipline. That's another problem, right? It's not everything's mental health. And guess what? Even if it is a mental health issue, you still go to jail, you do your time, you get to reflect in there. Maybe we get you some help while you're in there. And then you're like, hey, you know what? Jail sucks so bad that no matter how I am feel compelled to act any sort of way, I just don't, because you know what? Jail sucked really bad. Or if it was a bad enough act, like, I don't know, you intentionally and through planning go and kill someone like Charlie Kirk, you just don't get to come out regardless if it's a health issue or not. Like you killed a man with intent. You planned it out. It's first-degree murder. You go to jail, and you know what? If I've kind of gotten away a little bit from the death penalty, and if you guys want to talk about that, I'll tell you why. But at a minimum, you're going to jail for the rest of your life, whatever it is. Like, I don't care if it was your mental health problem. I don't care if your parents didn't raise you right. I don't care if you didn't learn self-control. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're poor. I don't care if you're green. I don't care if you're trans. You go to fucking jail. Like, I don't know why this is like super. This isn't like, I don't know, high level shit here. It's pretty simple. Yeah. And guess what? We were a safer society for it. And I do agree with that. I do agree that, like, if you did commit a crime because of mental health, like you have some doctor in there and they're not some activist doctor that just tries to blame everything for mental health. Like you got like a serious clinician in there and they do a legit diagnosis and they're like, hey, look, this guy's schizophrenic. He can't figure out what reality is. He can't separate reality from whatever's going on in his head. Like maybe prison's not your place. We put you in an asylum. Like we used to have those. We used to keep crazy people off the street. Now we're like, oh, we just give that as an excuse to give you, a lightened sentence. Like, oh, you know what? We really can't fix this. You're really not technically guilty because of some sort of excuse. So we're just going to put you back on the streets. That's not the right answer. You go to an asylum and I don't know, figure some things out. Charlie wanted to end Islam. I've never heard him say that. I'm sure as a Christian, he would prefer to convert you to Christianity, as most people that are Muslim would want to convert you to Islam. Yeah, the church shooter wrote that he regretted transing because medical science couldn't actually make him a woman. Well, he's not a woman. Yeah, Brian, I'm with you. I don't disagree that that's probably true, but I also think that we do blame too much shit on mental health. Like, the fact is, there's just lots of kids out there that never got an ass whooping and were never held to account, and they just are emotionally unstable, not because of mental health disease. And again, there are people that are like that, right? But we just have too many people in society that were never taught self-discipline. Like, you can't just react on every freaking impulse that you have. That's a real thing. I mean, that's ADHD in a nutshell. There is some truth to, like, we put kids on devices. I think there's a lot of truth to the trash that we feed ourselves and our kids. Like, there's bad things there. But there's a huge portion of this where, like, we as a society have no self-discipline. We see this in our inability to eat correctly, our ability to get addicted to everything, our inability to, like, do the things that we don't want to do. Like, that's what and I'm guilty of that too, right? Like, we put stuff off. I mean, considering that we have a functioning business and we operate at a high level of operation tempo, and we do a lot of things here. Like, I'm probably better than some, but definitely worse than others. There's a lot of people that have much better self-discipline that, people, like, we don't exercise anymore because we don't want to. We don't go outside. We know we need to, but it's so much more comfortable sitting on the couch eating, shoving freaking ice cream down our throats. All these things I've been guilty of. It's so much easier to sit back and drink a bunch of booze and poison ourselves. Like, we don't advocate for self-discipline anymore. Like, we just don't as a society. We seek comfort. And unfortunately, I think that bleeds over into a lot of things that are just bad self-discipline also get confused. It gets conflated as mental health issues. Don't get me wrong, there's some real mental health issues, and we're probably not doing enough to address them. I agree with all that, but I think there's two sides of that coin. I haven't heard the story. I need to look into that. Hey, it says, hey, you hear how the left in Germany assassinated a bunch of AfD politicians? No. Seems like the lesson here is just don't get shot. That is a lesson. Yeah, I mean, Charlie Kirk could have been, again, he could have been assassinated at any one of these events. It didn't take a lot of planning. It didn't have to be that sophisticated. It could have been. It could be very well planned out. Could be, a high level of sophistication. Could be 10 different government agencies. Could be an assassination plan from another country. Could all be all those things. But we just don't know. We don't have enough information to even determine that, and chances are we may never have that information. This is a really good question that I'm having a hard time understanding myself. And again, but if we were there on site, maybe there's 10 different entrances up to the roof for infill and exfil. How did they get to the roof and get down? From the layout of the building was the only one that could have come under the tent. Maybe. But again, maybe it's real easy to get up and down from it. Maybe there's 10 different access points to that roof. Yeah, we never had this epidemic trans logic until our media uplifted it. Stop allowing that first, and we'll see what needs to be done. Yeah, so not only did they uplift it and promote it, they demonized anybody that spoke out against it. That's the double-edged sword that they used against that allowed, which it's definitely a mind virus. They promoted it, said it was great, and on top of that, if you said anything against it, and again, there's been cases where fathers, and it does seem like a lot of times it's the mothers pushing this bullshit, but there's definitely been some cases where fathers objected to their child being, trans and transitioned, and like they get custody taken away from them, or they're banned from seeing the kid. So we had a lot of how do you what laws do you use that could be interpreted in that manner, that is somehow objecting to the fact that your child is being turned into something that he biologically or she biologically isn't, through a chemical process that's completely unnatural. What kind of judge sits up there and rules like that? That is dumbfounding to me. So yeah, we had both promotion of it as an ideology and then the demonization of anybody that spoke out against it. Yeah, I talked about that, Doc. Who knows? It did seem weird. I found that weird myself. I talked about it. Security was 5 foot to 75 foot. The tent covered all the buildings behind that perimeter. The shooter was not that fucking lucky. Sent to, yeah, I don't know. I'd have to actually see the ground. I don't know. And look, it was a tent too. We may end up finding out that the bullet actually went through the tent. If I could see his feet, and I'm not saying this is even, again, I'd need to see more footage. But let's say that he had an obstructive view from the tent, and said shooter was on a rooftop. So he had an obstructed view of, I don't know, his chest, even from his waist up. If I can see his feet, I can guesstimate where his chest or head is. So, I mean, that tent is not going to do anything to the trajectory of the bullet, especially when we're talking about such a short distance from where it would actually impact the tent to to the target. Yeah, Another wonderful seeker says the sad thing is all the irate conservatives who are calling for MAGA civil war will end up taking all this anger and frustration out on their families. I don't know how legitimate that is. Yeah, I seen some things on X. That's mainly where I'm seeing that. I don't even know how real that is. Again, some of that stuff is bot driven. Some of that stuff, there's a bunch of fake accounts that are ran by leftists that are pretending to be conservatives and know how to say just the right thing. I can tell you that's not a good idea. I also can tell you that I think, and I've been saying this for a couple of years now, the fact is that we have two different people in this country. All right. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, and on the Republican side, you can kind of lump in conservatives, most libertarians, and things like that. But what we are seeing for the first time is that we have two competing mindsets, ideologies, whatever you want to call them, that are absolutely incompatible with one another. They're irreconcilable. And there was, going back to even when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, like there was a lot of things that Democrats and Republicans agreed on. There's very few things that Republicans and Democrats agree on. And again, they're so diametrically opposed from one another that I don't know how that ends well. I do think that we're starting to see some of those problems kind of bubble to the surface. And maybe this is the end of it. And like people are going to wake up and like, hey, look, we got to get along, or this is the beginning of something worse. And I definitely don't want to see a civil war. But I think that we need to take a real hard look at how this country is set up and we may have to figure out a different system that works. Look, I think for sure, I believe with everything in me that like 2016 election was not a legitimate election. I think future elections are going to be, I think there's people on the left, don't get me wrong, I think there's some on the right too. I don't think that the right is perfect or incorruptible, but I think we have a mass corruption on the left. And I think generally speaking, the left believes in their ideology so hard that at any means necessary, they believe that. Like, hey, look, we have to implement this no matter what. And if it's voter fraud, if it's importing millions and millions of illegal immigrants to get the outcomes that we want, whatever it takes, if we have to cancel people, if we have to demonize people, if we have to call them racist, Hitler, whatever it is, they're willing to do whatever it takes. And I think there's going to be a point in time when, and I think we're already there. The right is sick of it. The right's tired of it. And there's going to be, we're at an impasse right now, and we got to figure out what it looks like going forward. And I don't have a good answer for you there. Yeah, I mean, again, this came up in the Butler situation, right? People are over analyzing all this footage, and anytime you analyze a crowd, you can look through that crowd and see all kinds of weird things that make no sense. But that's just freaking people. People do some weird shit. It just doesn't make sense to us. It doesn't mean it's some super secret signal or that it clearly makes them part of a conspiracy or whatever else. It just doesn't. I think we need to realize that. Yeah, I saw that. I don't think that guy knows. I don't think he knows that. And it could be. It very well could be. Very could be. Or it's just somebody that saw an opportunity, right? I mean, if somebody was there, or maybe they just brought a gun, was thinking about it, and again, it was a crime of opportunity. They saw that security will lax in certain areas. The opportunity was there, and they took advantage of it. Or it could be something that was highly planned. We don't know. Yeah. California girl says it. We can start with some of the parents. Parents say their child says at 2 or 3, they say they're a girl when they were born a boy. I mean, do you know that though, Russ? College campuses have security cards to get roof access, and high security day is astounding. They didn't set that 10 up until the last minute. He had a good detail. Like, I don't know that you know for sure that all campuses have security cards to get access to the roof or whatever else. Like, I just don't know that that's true. I can tell you right now, there's some highly secure government buildings that you can get access to the roof pretty easily. And they're better at security than college campus. So let's talk about counter sniper security. I don't know why we would need to, Andy. Like there was no counter sniper security. I mean, we can go into I could pull up that, and again, I do plan on looking at Google Earth tomorrow and looking at the layout, and we could come up with a pretty good counter sniper plan, but that wasn't part of their calculations. Like, they didn't have a counter sniper team, so I think it's kind of a moot point. See, drones knows. I'm always right. Tell Summer that. What angers me most is the fact that politicians on the left have called time and time again for violence. They absolutely have. And I've documented this, I've posted this. Now they're saying there's no room for political violence. Yeah. Well, they've called for violence against Trump and Trump supporters and everything else. Yeah, there's some truth to that. And people don't value human life when you're taught everyone comes from a pond, scum, and are terrible beings. Yeah, I mean, what value does a human have if you're just a product of evolution? Like, there's a different outlook that comes with real intrinsic value of human life as a Christian specifically, and I'm sure in other religions. I don't know about other religions, but when you have a God that says, "I knew you before you were born," that means something. And when you are created in the image of God, that means something. Or you were a monkey that lost his tail. I know I'm simplifying that. But I do think that there is a different mindset that people, and it's clear, like, this is why Christians are against abortion. This is why we innately, even when I wouldn't have at times professed that I was a Christian, I was so innately disgusted by the idea of abortion. And I still am. And I don't condemn anybody that's had an abortion. But I think that the act of it is pretty disgusting. And I think there's part of that as a Christian, that you feel that human life is much more valuable than people that are not. And specifically people that don't believe in God and thinks that everything can be explained by evolution. Yes. Yep. I've seen him on several different podcasts, including Sean Ryan. Sorry I'm blowing you up, but I haven't heard anybody address this way above luck. Daylight with a gun, high security level. That's not done alone. Russ, I don't know how you can look at that crowd and determine that there's a high security level. Like, we don't know if anyone went through magnetometers. Apparently, at that school, you can carry guns, which I support. Like, I don't know, outside of his personal security detail, which would be, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 guys at most, like, that don't have a lot of authority on campus. It's not like they can go do a PDSS, pre-deployment site survey, and survey the entire place and determine and tell the campus what to lock down and what not to lock down. Like, there is no high security there. Just the nature of that venue, like, it can't be high security. People literally can access Charlie Kirk. He's like 10 feet away from people. It's not high security. I'm not saying that it wasn't planned. I don't know, but let's not pretend that it was like it required some secret squirrels to get a gun on a roof. I don't think that's there, and I think the evidence is plain to me. What Ann said. Please hit the like button and subscribe. It's not, but it's to their jobs. I do agree with that. I don't think this was mental health. And I don't even care if they catch the person and come to find out that, there's some blue-haired leftist Bernie supporter. Like, it wasn't a mental health crisis that drove you to this. At a minimum, it was a planned ideological motivation, right? And it definitely took some planning, even if it started that day. So I'm with you on that, Russ. We agree on that. Brian, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. What will turn it around? I don't have a good answer for you. Sometimes it requires a war. I hope that's not, and I'm not suggesting that's what it should be. I don't want civil war. I covered that a lot in prior, but I'm just saying, like, there's a big part of me that looks at the trajectory of this country, and like war seems to be a pretty logical conclusion. I don't know that that's true, Andy. Mental health patients attack the weak. Big targets only have big hunters. I don't agree with that. Yeah, I support that. Let's bring back some asylums. Uh, I don't. Yeah, I don't know what your point is. It actually increased in different periods of that. Like for instance, 2019 to 2020. The other problem too is that I honestly don't believe the Biden administration and a lot of their statistics. Yeah, Laura, I agree. I think we overprescribe antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. You know, yeah. I mean, it's a real problem. No, I don't think it was a madman. I agree with you there. Yep, totally agree that crime is underreported. It's probably underreported, and I think when it's politically convenient, it's underrecorded. Um, you know, and that was another thing I remember hearing. I think it was in Minneapolis or whatever else, Minnesota. I think there was a whole big thing, a scandal going on where like people were going in and reporting crimes like every single day, and none of that information was being kept or being addressed or anything else. Part of it had to do with the fact that they didn't have enough police because they had been defunded in Minneapolis. I believe it was Minneapolis, but I think that is something that we've seen across the uh, in a lot of urban cities, especially where we have massive defunding of police. So not only are crimes being reported, but then on top of that, like there's another issue there that they can't respond to them because they don't have the personnel to do so. It's sexist to say manpower. They don't have the manpower to do so. So people just quit reporting them after a while. Like I called the cops, nobody came. Um, what I'd like to see is like overall murders. Like I'd like to see how much murder went up or down. I think that's probably a better statistic to judge some of that. But even that, you know, again, when we had the massive defunding of the police, I think many crimes went underreported. A lot more were not recorded and definitely not responded to. And then people just like got fed up and was like, doesn't matter. Somebody broke in my car. I called the cops on them. Nobody came. What's the point of calling the cops? And that is all due to the party of compassion. Oh, this is 100% true, Laura. 100%. Mental health medication is also a crutch for lazy parenting. Take your kids' social medias away, put them in sports, take them camping, take them to the theme park, distract them with the world. It's so big and fun. This is such an excellent point. Get them outside, make them chase rattlesnakes, make them fight one another, like whatever it takes, right? And that's something that me and Summer have, as we've gotten busier and busier with the business, we've slacked off on. We used to be really good about managing the kids. As they've gotten older, they've had more free time or unsupervised time, us busy with the business, and it's been a problem. And it's something that we've said and noticed and realized. We used to be pretty darn good about keeping our kids outside. We've been failing on that the last couple of years. Like, guys, quit saying this. This is so dumb. There was not a high security level. All right. He was not that well protected. He had a freaking local, a personally hired security team. They may have been extremely professional and good at their job. They do not have the resources to control a campus. Just stop. That was not a high security anything. All right. He had a small bubble. It was personal security. All right. He did not have site security on site. Like, it didn't happen. All right. He was Charlie Kirk. He was not the president of the United States. This kind of stupid thing gets me riled up. No offense, Russ. I'm sure you're a great guy. That opinion's dumb. It's not true. Let's go. Let's move on. Find something that we do agree on, Russ. Yeah, that's true. Like, ass whoopings are a good thing. I'm not saying he was lucky, Russ. I'm not saying he was lucky. What I'm saying is that he could have planned it, could have been pretty low level, but it could also be very high level and very sophisticated. We don't know, but there wasn't a lot of security there. Anybody with a firearm, some capabilities, and intent could have probably pulled that off. It wasn't Jason Bourne. Yeah, this is something that I think that we as Americans and those of us with traditional values, not only for the mental health, we got to get kids off of these devices, not only for mental health, but on top of that, we don't realize how much our kids are being programmed against us and against what we believe as they're consuming all this, content nonstop. Seven right-wing politicians were assassinated on 9 days or something. I'm not aware of what other politicians were assassinated. I've been busy though. I haven't been on media very much, so I could just be in a black hole of stupidity. Yeah, I always question underfunding. Funding is almost never the answer. Like, we have one of the most highly funded school systems on the planet. Here in West Virginia, the average kid, and we're in we're here in Berkeley County, West Virginia. It's like the average kid is getting like $28,000 per student for schooling. Like, they should be going to Harvard by the time they're done with that. You're getting $28,000 a year per student, times 12 years. Somebody do the math. It's almost $360,000 for 12 years. It's a lot of money. Lots of money there. And just throwing more money at it doesn't fix these things. I think we got to, like, one of the biggest problems is teachers' unions. Unions have destroyed America in so many different ways. Yeah, $330,000. How dare you, Ann? How dare you be on another podcast? These same people made jokes about a bunch of dead black people, including George Floyd. Now they're loving Christians with empathy. Well, you know what? If you're just going to come to this page and just be a douchebag, you're gone. And just try to stir up nonsense. Number one, that's not true. I don't know who these some people are, those people. But I know you're not acting in good faith, so you're gone. How about those apples? Yeah, well, we agree on that, Russ. See, we got a lot of stuff we agree on. Kyle, you're right. It is one of the saddest days in America. This is super unsettling to me. I mean, I guess it should be. I guess I'm a little shocked at how unsettling it actually is to me. So, I don't know. I'm having mental health issues over this. Don't think it was a false flag to get people to stop thinking about the files. Do you really think people stopped thinking about the Epstein files just because Charlie Kirk died? I think that's ridiculous. If they did that, they're dumb. I don't think that's going to change anything. No, I don't think it's a false flag. I think that all the things I stated earlier, I think Charlie Kirk is one of the most effective people on the face of the planet right now. And I think the left absolutely hates him, is scared of him. Just like I said earlier, there's more people that have listened to Charlie Kirk and heard his speeches than I bet many times over than they've heard any speech from Martin Luther King. Like the impact that Charlie Kirk has had, as much as I appreciate, I think I don't even realize how big of an impact he's had. And I think the left does. I think the left is has looked at some really good data. I'm not saying somebody in the upper echelons of Democrat power plan this or whatever else. What I'm saying is that there is a real panic and has been around Charlie Kirk. I think sometimes Occam's razor is a real thing. Like the simplest solution is likely the right answer. And I think that, again, the left has been terrified of Charlie Kirk, has demonized Charlie Kirk, has radicalized people that are susceptible to it against Charlie Kirk. So that's what I think. Now, I will say that, like I said this earlier, there is a chance my conspiracy theory brain says, hey, you know what? If suddenly there is now an attack on a left icon, someone in the left, a couple of days from now, we could be looking at either forces within the U.S. or forces outside the U.S. that want to cause some real division in this country. And if something like that happens in the next few days, I get more suspicious of conspiracies. I think for given the information we have now, it is what it is. It could be wrong. Here we go. All right, here's some facts. Police even said at the press conference afterward that it was an open event in a large open area, and they could only supply Kirk with 6 officers to help with security detail. Definitely not high level. Not letting me sub or thumbs up. Thanks, YouTube. Oh, yeah, I did hear about the German politicians. I'm thinking here politicians like local politicians here in the U.S. Wasn't aware of that. Yeah, I think that's probably a logical summation of given what we know right now. Could be deeper than that, could be more than that. But I think there's some people that are really, really, really outraged about that. Oh, yeah. I have watched the Yuri Bezmenov interview. If you guys haven't, you should. I should just pull it up right now, make everybody watch it. we'll lose half our viewers, but whatever. Yeah, unions outgrew their use, became corrupt, and are now destroying America. That's my thoughts, and that's coming from someone that my grandfather on my dad's side worked for GM. My grandfather on my mom's side worked for Ford in the Detroit area. I think unions, along with corrupt politicians, have absolutely destroyed the U.S. economy, and specifically, you can see those impacts very clearly in Detroit. I'd like to see those tweets. Jesse Bishop says Charlie was posting weeks ago that he was afraid that Israel was going to kill him. Hold on. I should pull up Grok. Let's pull up Grok. Let's see what Grok has to say. Did Charlie Kirk tweet that he was afraid that Israel would so according to Grok, well, hell, let's share this thing, so because we can do that here. Let's invite, stop screen, share screen. There we go, Grok. See what Grok has to say. Now I gotta reshare it. There we go. And we'll make this big. And we'll get rid of this comment. So, according to Grok, there's no definitive evidence from the provided sources or general web information that Charlie Kirk tweeted specifically that he was afraid Israel would have him killed. However, one X post from HDB3PO on September 11th, 2025 claims that Charlie Kirk literally said, in quotes, that Israel would try to kill him, and includes a link to a supposed video or content, but that post does not provide a direct quote or verifiable evidence of such tweet. Given the X posts are not conclusive evidence and can contain unverified claims, this cannot be confirmed and based on available information. Charlie Kirk was a vocal supporter of Israel, as noted in multiple sources, including his visits to the country, his defense of Israel's right to exist, and statements from Israeli leaders like Benjamin Netanyahu, describing him as a lion-hearted friend of Israel. He faced accusations of anti-Semitism from some critics, but he consistently denied these and emphasized his pro-Israel stance. No credible reports or verified tweets indicate he expressed fear of being targeted by Israel for assassination. I'm going to say that information is debunked. So there's that. There's no evidence. Expand, Gary. I get this a lot. Chris says, what do you honestly think will become of this? Like, what is going to happen after this? Because we all know that this is something very significant, and this is going to change the course of history. I don't know, man. What I would say is make sure you're armed, make sure you're capable, make sure you're self-sufficient, make sure that, I don't know, get some training on some med stuff, some firearms, make sure you're stocked up on all that stuff. The more self-sufficient you can be, the less you have to worry about some of these things, right? I agree with this, Jill. I think he was clearly on the trajectory of becoming a president. Could Charlie Kirk be the Martin Luther King 2.0? Maybe. And what you mean by that? Yeah, I kind of agree with that conclusion. I understand why people want to say that. Like this is intentional distraction. But at the same time, it's not very effective. Whoever planned that out is a freaking moron. See, this is where things start getting weird for me. I start to get a little grossed out. And if it happened 24 after the birthday leak, Trump announces that before hospitals, and Trump responded with an AI video. It's weird. Yeah, no, I think Trump was probably talking to Charlie Kirk's wife. I think that by the time I think Charlie Kirk was known to be dead for a long time before it was actually announced. I guarantee you Trump was talking to Charlie Kirk's wife and family and friends. So, I mean, he was probably officially announced dead 20, 30 or more minutes before it was announced on the media. Again, I've said this. I got texts saying it like when it was first announced he was shot, and then I saw the video. People were like, Charlie Kirk was shot, and then they're saying like he was in stable condition. There was a bunch of misinformation. Well, there was a bunch of information coming out. I don't know if it's misinformation or not. I saw the video. I was like, that guy was dead immediately. I don't care if he never lost an ounce of blood. Like the way that he seized up, I don't think Charlie Kirk ever realized what hit him. And so I think there was a lot of bad information going out there. I guarantee you Trump had access to information that we didn't and that the media didn't, specifically the media. I mean, why would Trump not know before the media? He was close friends with the family. I'm sure he was calling them immediately as soon as he found out. Yeah, so, I mean, it's actually the most logical thing. Yeah, no, I think you're right, man. I think that Charlie Kirk was a major, whether people realize it or not, had a major role in getting Trump elected. I think he actually had a bigger impact getting Trump elected than Joe Rogan. I don't think it's as tangible and as easy to calculate as someone like Joe Rogan giving an endorsement. But I do think his impact was far greater than most people. He was intolerant of other opinions. He was the antithesis of MLK. Gary, I don't know what you're talking about. He was not the antithesis of MLK. He was not intolerant of other opinions. He disagreed with people. Like, that's the problem that the left seems to get confused, is disagreeing with you and not being convinced by bullshit is somehow considered intolerant. Like when you tell me that, trans this or whatever other ideology, when I say no and I forcefully disagree, but also respectfully, which he always did, that is somehow intolerant. That is not intolerance. That's disagreement. And that's being convinced in your own beliefs. So I find that to be not only truthful, intentionally slanderous. Yeah, that's what I find that to be. Gary, we're all angry about this. What do you do with this anger will be key if we allowed. Again, I said this earlier, like we need to organize. We need to figure out ways that we can effectively continue to carry the torch for Charlie Kirk, continue to push his message in the way that he was doing. So I don't know, maybe it's get involved with Turning Point USA. There's other great conservative or libertarian or whatever anti-left organizations out there that you can donate money to, that you can get involved with. Start a freaking YouTube channel. I don't know, try. Like, I'm not doing anything over here. I do give to conservative organizations. I do promote the Second Amendment. I do promote the Constitution. I do love this country. Like, I don't know. And here's the thing. Here's the reality is, like, all of us, including myself, we don't like to get outside of our comfort zone. Some of you are saying, hey, you know what? I don't want to get in front of a camera. I don't like getting in front of a camera either. It's gotten easier. When I first started this, it was the worst thing ever. I hated it. I hated having to listen to myself, watch myself say things wrong and stupid, and like the sound of my voice. I hated like having to sit there and edit yourself and listen to yourself talk and do silly things. Like, I say some things, I'm like, what the like, what did I just say? Like, there's like no way to even cut that out. Like, I don't even know how to fix that. I gotta like pull out a microphone and do a voiceover. Like, I don't know, man. Like, find some ways to get out there and do something constructive. And I think Charlie Kirk is the perfect example. Like, he was so effective, and all he did was get out there and talk. And he stood rigid in his beliefs. He wasn't intolerant. He tolerated other people. He spoke with other people. He engaged with other people. He had discourse with other respectful discourse with other people. Like, the way that the left, and I think most of the people that are demonizing Charlie in so many different ways, I think a lot of them haven't even, like, they know Charlie through the descriptions of others. Like, he's a misogynist, he's a racist, he's this. Like, have you actually ever watched, like, show me somewhere that he was misogynist, show me something they actually said that was racist, other than like facts. And I mean, like, real racism, like, not something that you have turned into and made in your own brain like a racist code. Like, just stop. So I don't know, get out there and do what Charlie did. um Russ, your security plan can only extend as far as your resources. And Charlie wasn't a politician. He didn't have the might of the federal government. I'm sure he had a pretty decent size security budget. But a lot of that is for visuals and deterrence. So, I mean, it depends on the budget. You know, if you're Elon Musk, you can afford more than the president. If you're the president, you have entire agencies behind you that were built to provide you, to plan for, and resourced to provide you your security, and that have almost unlimited access, you know, to everything. I mean, they're like, some of these things are just unpreventable. I mean, that's the thing that we have to realize. They're like, this podcast is called Dangerous Liberty. Freedom is dangerous. Going out there and engaging people and changing people's minds is dangerous. Giving people access to you is dangerous. You know, like, allowing people to have freedom and allowing them to have guns, which I think is an imperative, especially in this country, is dangerous. Like, there's like, driving a car is dangerous. Freedom is not without costs or risks. And that's just the reality. There's no way to mitigate all risk, and there's no way to, like, you're just going to rack your brain and drive yourself crazy, and you're going to find yourself on your own, a bunch of SSRIs, trying to figure out how to prevent all these things. Like, you can't. There are things that we can mitigate, like school shootings. School shootings is an easy problem to solve, but we just don't have the will to do it. Well, Gary, so far, the only other comment that I saw of yours was not only opinionated, wasn't based in fact, it was a lie. Charlie Kirk was not intolerant. That's just a lie. And it's demonstrably a lie. So there's that. Yeah. So first of all, hey, says September 11, 2025. What the fuck? He posted tomorrow. I don't know what you're saying. Cursed Customs. It is ironic that today is September 11th. We're now at September 11th. Yeah, that's this is a true story. Democrats preach that they are the party of love and peace, yet celebrate when their opponents are assassinated. They celebrate when their opponents are assassinated. They celebrate their opponents when they're jailed. They celebrate their opponents when their lives are destroyed. They don't care about people at all. All they care about is the preservation of their ideology at all costs. That's a reality. That's what the left is about, and that's just a fact. Yeah, Chris, I agree that this is going to be something that is pivotal in our history. I just don't know what the outcome is. Like right now, we're at a bunch of different crossroads, and there's lots of different paths that can be taken by either side, and the reaction of one side or individuals within those sides are all going to determine the reactions of everybody else, which is going to, again, we have a bunch of diverging paths in front of us, and they could go any way. I think you need to plan for the worst, hope for the best. Well, it sounds like, Gary, that you are the most intolerant person here. I think that almost everything that the Biden administration did was unconstitutional. I think what they did was illegal. I think forcing vaccines on people were illegal. I think closing churches were illegal. I think confining people to their homes were illegal. I think the way that they silenced people by, with, and through social media was unconstitutional and illegal. We had directors, we had different agencies directing censorship through the Biden administration. That's illegal, unconstitutional. So all those things are, and those aren't opinions, by the way. Those have been ruled upon. So you're in here just kind of spewing a bunch of hate and causing division, Gary. You're not trying to bridge a gap or talk about anything. So you're right. We don't have any common ground because all you want to do is demonize anyone that has a differing opinion than yours. If you want to discuss some of these things, we're here to do it. But you're not going to come in here and just say that I don't support Donald Trump at any level. That's fine. He is a criminal. And, the implication here is that, like, anyone that does is an idiot. That's fine. Whatever. I'll take Donald Trump over Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton. I'll take him over all those. So there's that. Yeah, I mean, when you're one trick pony, that's all you got. I think that looks like a deformed and deflected / ricochet projectile. I think that's why it deflected off the top of his plate and made a much more elongated entry wound than would be normal, and possibly cause more damage than would be normal. I also think that, again, he was pretty much dead instantly. Yep, I agree. I think he was dead immediately. Well, this is true. Charlie was not Jewish. He was a Christian. He was not Jewish. Yep. People called him anti-Semite, even though he had a very close relationship with Israel. He even got, especially early on, and some of I think he became a little bit more critical of the Israel military operations in Gaza more recently. But he was extremely supportive of Israel for a really long time. And even some of the criticism that he put out, he was still very supportive of Israel. Nick, I think Charlie is probably one of the best people that you could possibly look up to. So, number one, you need to be in bed, kid. Number two, I think that's he's a very good example of what a great American should be. He welcomed other opinions, loved debate. Absolutely true. The range, Gary couldn't be more wrong. He's not talking about me. He's talking about Gary Peterson down here. Gary couldn't be more wrong. He used to stop his audience from booing the folks that wanted to debate with him. You're absolutely right. Oh, you know what, Gary, here's what we're going to do. I got a special video for you. I think it'll be fun. I think this is one of the best videos Charlie Kirk has ever put out. I love it. I've seen it a bunch in the past. Let's go to my profile here. And I have it up here as an homage to Charlie Kirk.
The Declaration only refers to God 4 times. The Constitution doesn't refer to God at all. And it only articulates the structure of government.
So first of all, remember that we were a collection of states and colonies, and you need to read the state constitutions before anything else. 13 out of 13 required a declaration of faith. In almost every single one of the original state constitutions, they had, I profess Lord and Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Secondly, 55 out of 56 of the original signers of the Declaration were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. You asked about common law. Well, let's go to 3 principles of common law: presumption of innocence, due process, and jury of your peers. All 3 are biblical principles. So, and all wrapped into the ultimate biblical principle that you shall not favor justice if you are rich or poor, which is in Leviticus 19, which is the idea of blind justice, which is incorporated also in the New Testament ideal. Neither slave nor Greek nor Jew, you're all one in Jesus Christ, which is the idea of human equality. These are all biblical ideas, but more importantly than that, they say that God was only mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Well, that's a big deal. John Adams famously said the Constitution was only written for a moral and religious people. It was wholly inadequate for the people of any other. The body politic of America was so Christian that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population.
Woo! I don't care who you are. That's pretty damn powerful. So, bet you don't have a real good argument against that, Gary. This is a great point, and I think this is something that we struggle with. All of us struggle with when we have these different types of events. And I think Kyle kind of hits the nail on the head here. Sums it up nicely. The human brain tries to make sense out of why things happen. Period. We try to understand, make conclusions, come to theories, and so on. This could have 100% been just a person who is crazy. It could have. Could go the other way, but I think he's right. Like, this is why, when these types of events take place, we're searching for meaning. We're searching for like a bigger reason. And look, I completely believe in conspiracies. Like, it happens a lot. I think it happens more than we give the government credit for. But I don't believe, I need some evidence. Like, there's some really good evidence in lots of different conspiracies. Could this been a conspiracy amongst 2 or 3 people? Could have been a conspiracy in an organization? Could this been a paid hit? All those things are possible. But we don't have enough information to come to those conclusions at the moment. That's just a fact. Yep, I agree with Lord Crook. Lorde Crook. Yep. He kept things civil, and that's what he embodied. Craig Sims said he regularly used to say, let's find some common ground to people he was debating. He was an understanding, respectful guy, very tolerant. I covered this earlier, Colin King. Charlie would not have been effective. I don't think he would have allowed bulletproof glass. I don't think that he was aware of any imminent threats. But the thing that made Charlie effective is that he got down with the people. He was within like 5 or 6 feet usually of the people that he was discussing with, and with large crowds that were booing him, that were being hostile toward him. That's what he did on a regular basis. I think if you look at so many of the different videos of him talking to extremely aggressive and combative crowds in the past on campus, and people, large groups of students that were very aggressive toward him, like this, given the scene and what was going on and how many fans of his were there, this is the last place I would have expected this to take place. I know, but sometimes it's fun. Curse Customs. Sometimes it's fun. I agree with that. We can't stand for the leftist bullshit anymore. Yeah, we can't. We got to push back with some grace, with some humility, but stand firm. Don't give any ground, for sure. And take ground back, by the way. We need to go on the offensive, non-violently, right? Winning in the same way, winning through discourse, right? Exactly the same way that Charlie Kirk did. Yeah, you guys don't let Gary Peterson get you all worked up. I'm just enjoying trolling him back. Yeah, there's no telling, Natasha. We don't know what caliber it was as of now. We don't. I don't think that. I think there's some good reasoning behind where they're saying that person was, but I don't think they know that exactly. I don't know if that's been completely confirmed. I'm sure it will be. There's no way. There's no way to know why he hit him where he hit him, how he hit him where he hit him. If it was luck. I do think, again, just from that video that we saw that I showed you guys, like I think he definitely got hit in the neck after it hit some sort of body armor. And I think, given the thickness of that, I think it's pretty easy. I think it's pretty reasonable to conclude that was metallic body armor. Yeah, this is a great question. I've been going back and forth to Fox News. Actually, I want to pull up Fox News on, amongst others. Let me see what we got here. See if there's any updates. Manhunt still underway. Having this refresh. I do want to look at some of the different news agencies on YouTube real quick. Let's see. See what we got here. The most recent thing was a tribute. Yeah. I don't think there's any update, any new information really coming out, folks. They clearly don't have the shooter in custody. It will be interesting to see what information comes out on that. He's pretty clearly wearing plates. Rewind. Go back to the beginning. Go right back to the beginning of this podcast. I think you'll see that he was clearly wearing plates. Jill, I do agree with that. That's where I saw race tensions completely heat up, specifically when they were talking about healthcare, amongst other things. Like anytime that any politician or anybody spoke out against any sort of policy with Obama, for the first time ever, we saw the media either directly or indirectly saying that opposition was based solely on the fact that Obama was black. And I thought that was a real shame. And I think the Obama presidency pushed race relations back in this country 50, 100 years. It was a lot. And, that's one thing. Like, I remember, matter of fact, I was deployed in Iraq in 2008 when he was elected. I'll never forget that. And I was not happy that Barack Obama had been elected president. But one of the things I remember that night, I was like, well, at least we can stop talking about race, right? America has elected a black president. Little did I know race relations would just go to shit after that presidency. Everything became about race now, and it wasn't. It's like, hey, look, we disagree with you on a policy basis. Like, we don't believe in socialized medicine. We don't believe in a lot of the initiatives that you're trying to push forward, not because you're black, but because it's a shit policy. But that really did, and it was pushed so much in the news that I think Black America started to believe it, and now we definitely were divided amongst like I didn't. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, like race wasn't a thing. Like it just wasn't. And now it is. And it's worse than ever, worse than I've ever seen. I think it's easily comparable to the way it was. We were divided in the 60s, maybe even worse to some extent. Yeah. Hey, folks, definitely like, subscribe, all those things. I don't know. I think it's time to call it a night. It's 2:04 in the morning here. I don't know. I feel a little better. So thank you guys for letting me vent to you. And hopefully I reciprocated that. I don't know. We're definitely going to find out some more information tomorrow. We'll most likely have another podcast tomorrow. So stay tuned. I'll just say we'll go ahead and have a podcast or plan a podcast probably more like 8 or 9 p.m. tomorrow. I'll let you know. I'll put it out. If something breaks, we'll jump in and do a live stream. So get all your information here. We'll do our best to bring you updated information as soon as we get it. Anyways, thank you guys for being great Americans. Get out there. Continue to carry the torch that Charlie Kirk did and do it in the way that he does. And again, it's time for us to stop giving up ground. That's what Charlie Kirk did. First and foremost, be respectful of others, be respectful of other opinions, but don't cede ground on what you believe. Anyways, until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.